How's it going, everybody? It is Pilot Flame, and we are back with the next game week, Game Week 7 preview. We're going to be taking a look at how I did in Game Week 6, just kind of minimizing the red arrows at the moment because we haven't been on the greatest of streaks at the moment. We're going to see how my transfers did. We're going to check out the predictions like we usually do from game week to game week. We have a little game that we do with that in the point system if you wanted to follow along with that. Also, we've been putting videos in a more crammed kind of session, as it were, over on YouTube as well. That's going to be like that for this week as well as game week 8 because they've put a Friday fixture, and unfortunately I can't be home in time to do an exact deadline stream. However, it looks like game week 9 and 10 are back to normal with the games being on Saturdays to start off with, not Fridays. So it means less time for thinking about transfers, but I like it a little bit better when it's 1 hour before the deadline and things are a bit hectic, and you know, you can make some different decisions as you go along. Also, just want to give a quick shout out to those that have followed since I have been offline. Yogi Bear 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9, thank you for following, as well as Frankenstein 2789 and Mr. Thunder 69. Thank you all for following. And Yogi Bear, speaking to the devil himself, is here. How are you doing, sir or madam? But yeah, we're going to be talking about a couple of things today. So the Spurs duo striking again. We're also going to be taking a look at how we can potentially get some value out of our defense, because clean sheets are few and far between at the moment. And are there any hidden gems that we haven't really seen in terms of midfielders? Because I have Podence and he's just getting me 3 points every week, which isn't the end of the world, but want to see if we can find something else in there. So without further ado, let's get into the preview show. So there's actually one thing that I need to change here really quickly. My overall rank, the estimate was slightly off, but I think it's around 2 million is the rank, but the points and everything else should be the same. I got 60 with 17 points on the bench. Jeez, you must have had a pretty good team. It was definitely a very good week to get a good score, because there was a lot of bad ones floating around. If you captained Son, you were looking fantastic. You know, him getting the goal and 3 bonus points, exactly what you wanted. If you captained Kane, you got a little bit extra. I had a couple of players that, you know, got me returns, but apart from that, not really much else in terms of attacking wise. You know, Son was the only person in my entire team that actually got me a goal, and I still managed to get 51 points. 47 with the -4. So let's actually take a rundown of the team really quickly here. So we had McCarthy got us a surprising clean sheet versus Everton. It went the exact opposite of what I thought it would. But overall, if you add McCarthy 6 points, James Rodriguez is 2 points, Calvert-Lewin's 1 point, and Ings is 10 points, you basically get close to 5 points on average from 4 players, which I would definitely take most weeks if you hand it to me at the beginning of the week. So not too bad there. Ings picking up 2 bonus points with his 2 assists, 2 warranted passes, I think, for assists there. Not sure what Pickford was doing on which goal was it? Was it the first goal? Yeah, the first goal was pretty well struck. No, his second goal. I think that, you know, Sigurdsson kind of comes across, but I don't think he really positions himself well either. But that's just a bit of nitpicking, as it were. There were 2 great passes from Ings, so overall quite good. Castagna getting a surprise clean sheet as well. He was 1 point of BPS off of getting 1 bonus point. Lamptey today started off, you know, it was 0-0, was going good. Thought he had an assist. But West Brom's defenders are so bad that they stole his assist from him by hitting one ball off of another one and into their own net. So he didn't get an assist for that. Then he got booked, and then they conceded. So he ended up with just 1 point, which is, you know, not the end of the world. Robertson only getting 2 points. So we'll talk about my transfers in a second. But basically, Trent Alexander-Arnold, for those that had him, also got 2 points as well. Looked like he may have gotten an assist for Salah's goal, but again, ruled offside. James Rodriguez only getting 2 points. A lot of people sold him because they thought he was injured. I have so much value tied up in him, I didn't want to get rid of him. And he ended up getting the same points as Mitchell, so it wouldn't have mattered too much for me anyway. Hyun-Min Son, again, goal, 3 bonus points, just what I wanted. It basically kind of kept my rank as it were. I think if he wouldn't have scored, it probably would have leveled out anyway, and I would have probably been around a similar rank. But hence, again, 3 points getting hooked off 25-30 minutes earlier than I would hope. Not great. Salah could have potentially scored 1. Didn't, unfortunately. Only getting the 2 points for himself. Calvert-Lewin getting himself booked. Only 1 point. Not ideal there. Kane getting the assist over Son, I think, worked out quite well. Because if it had been the other way around, I think I would have got a bigger red arrow. Even though I have both of them. And then Ings, my, kind of... Basically, my Raul Jimenez in my team. End up getting more points than Jimenez, which was quite good. And then on the bench, the only thing I could have potentially changed was Mitchell for Lamptey, but it got me 1 extra point. Not the end of the world there. I was always going to play Lamptey versus West Brom, but apparently Brighton's defense is that bad. So, overall, we did get a little bit of a red arrow. We were 1.8 million at the start of the end of last week. We are now at 2 million, so not the end of the world. A 200k drop at this point in the season is basically like a couple thousand at the towards the end of the season, so it's not that big of a deal. We're kind of just steadying the ship, as it were, until the next international break, and then things will start to get hectic, and we can start making some some interesting moves, because fixtures will start to slowly change, and we'll kind of have to see people making some very important decisions, like, do we go with City players because they have good fixtures in that run from game week 10 onwards? Will we get off the ship with Spurs? Because, as we can see here, from game week 9 to game week 13, not looking too hot overall. So we'll have to kind of see how people hang on to them, or if they do at all. But yeah. Now, moving on to our scores here. So, if you don't know how it works, I basically do predictions every week. Just kind of some general thoughts about how I think the game will go, and then I give a score. I'm not usually right, but what I like to do is see if I can get 5 results right. So, if I predict a win, then it results in a win, no matter what the score. And then I try to see if I can get at least 1 exact score right. So, the way the scoring works is that if you get so if I had predicted this week, which I didn't, if I had predicted Leeds to win 3-0 and they won 3-0, I get 3 points. So that's kind of like a win. If I predicted Leeds to win and they won by any scoreline, then I get 1 point. And if I predicted a win and they had drawn or lost, then I get 0 points. So, like I said, on average, we want to get at least half the games right, and one of those being the exact result. So I have my notepad here. Last week we only got 2 of the correct results last week, which wasn't great at all. So this week, hopefully, we can do a little bit better. So I have a little snippet tool of my post over on Twitter, and I seem to have closed my my screen here. Where have you gone? There you are. Not sure why that happened, but we fix it. Now, where is it gone? That's not what I'm looking for. There we go. Not sure why I minimized everything, but anyway, Windows is a funny program sometimes. Moving on. Apologies for the technical difficulties. Anyway, so we have Leeds here. They won 3-0 over Aston Villa. I predicted them to win 3-2, so I get 1 point for that. City, I predicted a 3-1 win. They only drew, so I don't get any points for that. Crystal Palace, I did predict them to beat Fulham 1-0. They won 2-1, so I still get 1 point. United and Chelsea, I predicted a 2-2 draw. It was 0-0, so again, 1 point. So far, 3 correct results. Liverpool and Sheffield United, I predicted a 3-0 win for Liverpool. They won 2-1, so another correct result. So 4 out of 5, not too bad so far. We predicted Everton to beat Southampton 3-1. Southampton won 2-0, so I'm actually kind of glad it worked out that way, because it means a lot of the Everton assets didn't get any points. And Dini getting sent off was just the icing on the cake, because I don't have him. And I think that Everton's defense isn't great because you have Jordan Pickford in goal. Wolves 1-0 over Newcastle. They were so close to getting that, but unfortunately they did not, conceding very late on to a fabulous free kick. Leicester vs Arsenal 1-1. It ended up being 1-0 Leicester, so again, wrong there. Brighton 2-0 win over West Brom ended up being a 1-1. And then Spurs, we predicted a 2-1 win over Burnley. They end up winning 1-0. So overall, we got our 5 points. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we got half the results correct, the other half not. So again, that's 5 points, which is better than what we did last week because we only predicted 2 right overall. And then in terms of our differentials, we like to see if we can get a couple of these right. But a Wolves clean sheet was on the cards, not to be. Pope did not get any saves, which I thought he might do. And I thought that this game could be a bit of a banana skin, even though I was bringing in Spurs players. Again, not to be, only getting 2 points for himself there. Kilman was almost a good differential, but again, not to be. Marcus Rashford, good idea in theory, didn't end up panning out. The best one, though, was Antonio, right at the bottom here in the forward line, getting himself a goal, and I believe it was 3 bonus points by the end of it. He was in line for 2, but ended up getting himself 3 with a fantastic bicycle kick. So, lovely stuff overall. Differential is a little bit more difficult to get. If I can get 2 out of 5, it's usually quite good. But yeah, just some surprise of the week. Just Leeds just did what I said they were going to do, which is demolish Aston Villa. Not many people thought that that was going to be the case, but we see that Aston Villa reverted back to type because I don't think personally that they're that great. People were bigging up Ross Barkley, thinking he's a fantastic player. I don't see it personally. Even though he is a budget option in FPL and his numbers look good, I just think that when they go up against a team that can press well, like Leeds, like Southampton would be a good example, they're going to cause Aston Villa problems because Ross Barkley needs space to dribble in, and that's not going to happen against a team that presses really well. And with the amount of energy that Leeds have, you ain't going to get much time to even think, let alone dribble the ball. Man City, again, very disappointing, only with a 1-1 draw. Crystal Palace almost keeping a clean sheet, but a late fantastic goal from, I believe it was Kearney. Yes, it was. Getting himself a goal there. United and Chelsea, the kind of hotly debated, game of the week, ended up being a pretty much of a kind of a nothing game, really. Didn't really learn much in the first half. Didn't learn that much more in the second half, apart from the fact that I think United wasted a lot of time with the lineup they put out there. And Chelsea kind of went there to kind of see where things went. They didn't want to concede on the break like they did. And Lampard seemed to have learned his lesson after being burnt a few times by United's counterattack. And he went there to kind of, be a bit more secure, which he did. And then kind of settled for a point. Because a good point away from home, as long as you beat the teams at home when you go to play them, is what you're looking to get out of the game. Liverpool, grinding out a result, getting a win. Southampton was definitely the surprise of the week. Alongside, I would probably say Leicester. People thought that Arsenal were going to be able to handle Leicester with Arteta's reign. But again, Arteta's team, he sets them up in such a way where they're defensively sound, but when you don't create anything, then there's not really much you can do. And he keeps putting the likes of Aubameyang on the left, on the right, and basically not through the middle. Lacazette had a goal ruled out because Xhaka was arguably in the line of the goalkeeper's sight when the ball came through. Could VAR overturn that? I think so, possibly. Same within the United game. Could Maguire have given away a penalty on his chokehold on Azpilicueta? I think so as well. Fabinho, the penalty that he supposedly gave away, I still think he gets the ball first, which is a fair tackle in my book. Overall some pretty questionable VAR decisions, and unfortunately it's not looking great for VAR. Hopefully they can improve next week. I think personally they just need football people or people that know the game running the booths rather than just other referees. It just makes more sense to me. Brighton showing that the defense can't keep clean sheets, so a bit unfortunate there. And Spurs getting a result 1-0 versus Burnley. Now, for my transfers, so actually let's take a look back at that. So the transfers that I made this week was I brought in Lamptey, Son, and Kane. That was for a -4 because I had 2 free transfers. And they were in place of Mitrovic, Bruno Fernandes, and Trent Alexander-Arnold. So Son ended up with 11 points, Kane ended up with 5, with 16, plus Lamptey's 1 is 17. If I take off the -4, that means 13. Bruno Fernandes got 3 points, which means that's 10 points. Trent got 2 points, which means that's now 8. And then Mitrovic also got 2 points. So that means I was +6 up on the move, even with the hit, which worked out quite nicely for us. Overall, and I think they're going to be better going forward, and I'll look to bring potentially Bruno Fernandes back in game week 8-9 in place of Son or something like that when Spurs' fixtures turn. And moving on to game week 7 here, we have the fixtures here for game week 7. Again, the Friday kickoff. It's 1 hour later in my time zone because the UK has already put their clocks back an hour, I think it is. I think that means that the deadline is the same still in terms of not the deadline. The price changes is still the same for now, but it's going to be an hour earlier come this week, I believe. Something like that. But let's take a look at the fixtures here. So Wolves versus Crystal Palace. I think Crystal Palace are pretty bad, personally. I don't think that they played spectacularly well versus Fulham, but they did end up scoring 2 goals. I just think Wolves are a lot better defensively. I can see Wolves just winning this game comfortably, just a 1-0 standard game. City versus Sheffield United. I think City have problems on offense. They lost Aguero to injury again. I think they're still susceptible on defense as well. Could be a tricky fixture. Sheffield United maybe turning a corner here. But I think City should still have enough to get by them. I think they'll probably end up just winning the game. You know, not by a complete blowout, but a comfortable 2-0, I think. Especially if De Bruyne is back. Burnley versus Chelsea. I think Chelsea's defense, you know, they're going to be improved a little bit more. They're going to probably go with the same 3 at the back like they did versus United, because Burnley typically play with 2 up front, which will help them out a lot better. I think it was a bit wasted, a bit too passive versus United because they only had 1 forward, which ended up being Rashford. So I think they should be able to marshal this game quite easily. I think that Chelsea's creativity might come into question here, but I can still see them beating Burnley quite easily. I think a 2-0 victory is what we can see from them. Liverpool versus West Ham. I think Liverpool will definitely do what City couldn't, which is win. I think they should win quite comfortably. I still think they might concede. Probably just if Antonio's playing. If Antonio's not playing, then they won't concede at all. I'm going to go with a 3-1 victory here. Aston Villa versus Southampton. I think Southampton can definitely do a job on Aston Villa here. I think they end up nicking a win over them. I still think Aston Villa probably score because Southampton aren't great defensively. The only reason they kept a clean sheet against Everton was because Everton were man down. And I think Southampton actually win 2-1. Everton Newcastle, shouldn't be any problems here. Everton clean sheet almost certainly. 3-0 win for Everton as they get back on track. Arsenal versus Man United. I think United was better defensively, apart from the Maguire chokehold on Azpilicueta that could have potentially been a penalty. Arsenal defensively, still some questions there because their most creative player was David Luiz and he came off injured. So maybe defensively Arsenal might be good and they might look to hit United on the break, but it's not going to be that easy to do because if Aubameyang's playing on the left-hand side, which he's being favored on for Arteta, he's not going to get past Aaron Wan-Bissaka, who's just going to keep him in his pocket the entire game, I would think. Considering if he can do it versus Mbappe and Neymar, Aubameyang should be basically, not as good as them, in theory. So I think he should be quite comfortable with that. I can see United winning this game, potentially grinding it out. Maybe Arsenal try to, play a bit more defensive, and then United can pick them off. I just hope they pick the right team, and if they do, I think they can win the game. I think that United win the game 2-1. Spurs versus Brighton. I think Spurs should win this game comfortably. I think they'll concede, though. Brighton provide a lot of space in behind and haven't been clinical up front. I still think Spurs will concede somehow, though, because their defense isn't as good and was kind of flattered by Burnley's lack of attack or taking of chances, as it were. They'll probably hit Spurs on the break or something, or maybe just fumble a set piece and Malpay taps in the back of the net. Who knows? Fulham versus West Brom. I honestly think West Brom is probably going to win this game. Will they keep a clean sheet? Probably not. I can see Fulham potentially scoring 1. I'm going to go with the West Brom win, 2-1. And then Leeds versus Leicester. This could be this could play into Leicester's hands, because they could just sit back, play a bit defensively, and then kind of hit Leeds on the break, who will give them a lot of space. I think this potentially could be somewhat high scoring, and it's just a matter of how many chances does Vardy get in behind, and how many chances does Bamford actually take. I'm actually going to go on the fence with this one, and I'm going to go with a 2-2 between these two. Moving on to the clean sheets and differentials. So the clean sheet, I think this week should be pretty straightforward. I think Chelsea will keep a clean sheet versus Burnley. Very toothless versus Spurs. Didn't really create a whole lot. But I think Chelsea's defense with the back three, with Azpilicueta and Thiago Silva and Zuma, they should be more than enough to handle Chris Wood and Ashley Barnes. For goalkeeper this week, Patricio looks to be a good shout versus Crystal Palace. I think it's one of the last remaining really good fixtures for Wolves, and I think that Patricio is going to be a fantastic pick for this week. In defense, I think Reguilon comes straight back in. I think midweek, he probably plays Reguilon for 60 minutes. Mourinho, that is, takes him off after 60 minutes or so, or maybe he even starts Davies there, and Reguilon just starts on the weekend and provides that more attacking output. And I think Reguilon's pace is something that's a bit underrated, and I think he could definitely get in behind Lamptey, who gets forward quite a lot. Maybe a little bit more tricky because of the the back three, but again, that is without Dunk, who was sent off in the previous game and will still be serving his 2nd out of 3 games for his red card. For the midfield differential, I've gone with Gareth Bale. He's had, 1 bench appearance in the Premier League. Didn't come on tonight versus Burnley. But I think he could probably get more minutes midweek and then can probably start, because I think with him in the team, their Spurs are much scarier prospects. So I think if you're looking for a Spurs differential for this game, I think it's going to be Gareth Bale, because Lucas Moura, the way Mourinho is set up with Lucas Moura, with Sissoko, with Davies, they just don't provide very much threat going forward at all. So I'd like to see Bale and Lo Celso basically back in the team. And the last thing I've gone with Firmino. Now this is someone who has not performed well at all in the game versus Sheffield United. He got on the score sheet, doing well for himself, something he's been heavily criticized for. And I think Firmino's the type of player that, from what I know, is someone who's once he gets going, he can tick along quite nicely. And I think that 1 goal at Anfield is now kind of off, the weight's off his shoulders now, and I think he's going to definitely kick on, and I think he's going to be crucial in Liverpool's success, if they are to have any, versus West Ham, which I think they definitely will. So those are my clean sheet and differential picks, and I think that we should probably do a little bit better than last week with pretty. I think Wolves should look to bounce back, getting a clean sheet versus Crystal Palace. Sheffield United shouldn't trouble City. Chelsea should be able to handle Burnley. Liverpool may struggle a little bit versus West Ham, but overall should be quite comfortable. Same with Everton versus Newcastle. There are some tougher ones to call, like United, Arsenal, like Southampton, Aston Villa, like Leicester, Leeds. These sorts of fixtures can be, a bit trickier. So this is how the team lines up as we stand. So we have McCarthy in goal, away to Aston Villa. We have Castagne in there, away to Leeds. We have Lamptey, who's away to Spurs. Robertson and Salah at home to West Ham, with Salah with the armband on at the moment. James Rodriguez and Calvert-Lewin away to Newcastle for the Everton duo. The Spurs duo, Son and Kane, are at home to Brighton this week. Podence is in there versus Crystal Palace at home, and Ings is away to Aston Villa. Now, the one thing obviously I have in my team that's a bit of a concern is Lamptey away to Spurs. So at the moment, what I'm actually going to do is swap Lamptey out and put Mitchell in. Because in the event that Mitchell does start, I just basically hope for a 0-0, or at least Mitchell getting taken off like Seiss did and got a clean sheet, which was not impressed by that at all. But hopefully something like that can happen, because we saw when Klein and Mitchell started the game, Nathaniel Klein was the first one to be taken off, and Mitchell moved over to right back, which is quite interesting. So he may be someone to potentially keep going forward. So we'll have to see how that works out on that front. In terms of any potential changes, or whether, like, we're talking about captaincy, make sure to check out my captaincy video. It's going to be out tomorrow. But I think it's pretty straightforward again this week. It's going to be between Kane and Salah. You know, Kane not bettering Salah that much this week, just getting the 1 assist. But I do think that both of them are against very potentially volatile backlines. We saw that West Ham conceded 3 versus Spurs within like a 15-minute period, which against Liverpool you can't do that. They would drown you out and basically, you know, just put you away super easily. I also think that same with Brighton. You know, they gave space to West Brom, and with better players like Kane and Son, who can, you know, create chances and get in behind, you know, are great on the break. I think they can cause, you know, Brighton problems, which is why I don't want Lamptey anywhere near my first team. I brought him in for the West Brom game, and then we're going to play in Burnley at home, and then maybe Aston Villa away. We'll have to see. But again, looking for potentially a defensive transfer this week, because I'm not sure if Mitchell will start. I know Ferguson's not going to start, and I think that that Lamptey, you know, is not going to be a great pick versus Spurs. Can Spurs potentially concede to like Lamptey getting taken down or something like that for a penalty or something, or maybe he creates a chance? Very possibly, but I'd rather just be like, you know, going for Spurs and just hoping that, you know, they just demolish Brighton, and then I just don't have them on the, you know, on the bench. So in terms of what transfers we could make, so we talked about the Spurs duo, you know, doing it again, and they're gonna get better because they're gonna have Reguilon back in the team. Lo Celso is coming back to fitness as well. They still have Bale to fit into the team. They're gonna definitely look a lot better once they have all of those guys in there and playing at full strength. So far with the defensive transfers that we made, you know, we looked at Reguilon potentially as an option. Again, getting benched tonight, rotation risk. Looked at potentially Aurier or Doherty. You had Doherty in there. Again, a rotation risk. We want somebody who's going to be cheap, and is going to be somebody that we can rely on heavily game in, game out. And that's where we have to kind of take a look at you know, some of the defenders here. So I'm going to see if I can adjust the screen just a little bit here to see if we can take a look at some of these the list of these defenders here. So hopefully everyone can see that. So some of the defenders that potentially we can, you know, for certain teams. So a lot of people were looking at, not Arsenal, Aston Villa. So we have the likes of Mings here, who is somebody that has been hotly contested, 5.2, starting to become more of a mid-priced defender. But again, the way he played versus Leeds, he kind of got exposed a little bit there, so not great overall. Konsa at 4.7 could be great value, but again, being picked up, potentially for his goal threat on set pieces. Almost scored versus Leeds, but again would have had to do very well from his position to do so. Target is another one that he's on set plays. He's a lot less owned. He's a lot cheaper. And we'll pick up the clean sheet every now and again, but won't be on like bonus points like Mings or Konsa will. So again, some options there. Been looking at those as a potential rotation in there. The next one is potentially Burnley, but again, they don't really excite me too much. The only one I would be considering would be the likes of Charlie Taylor. But again, the fixtures aren't great. Chelsea at home, Brighton away could potentially be a bit of an issue. Crystal Palace at home looks nice, but again, not followed up by great fixtures after that. So again, not really looking at Burnley at the moment. Chelsea, the only one I'd be looking here would be Chilwell, and he's getting to that like Digne price bracket of like the 6 million mark. He's very attacking, is very good going forward, and does have a few good fixtures with Burnley, Sheffield United, and Newcastle. The only problem is that if I wanted to bring him in, I would need to take a hit to do so if I didn't want to just, if I didn't, want to play Mitchell. So like, if I wanted to make sure that I have a, starting defender, I would have to take out Castagne and then upgrade Mitchell to somebody or something of that nature. Because I want to play Robertson, I want to play Castagne. Basically, what I want to do is basically see if I can upgrade Ferguson or Mitchell to somebody else. So again, probably not an option there unless we want to take a hit, which I don't want to do. Crystal Palace, again, we have 3 Crystal Palace defenders. Not really looking to get a third. The other one would be Patrick Van Arnhold, but again, a little bit too expensive. Still haven't seen much of him yet. Everton, not even looking at them. Leeds is probably one of the teams I would say is up there. We're looking at the likes of Dallas, who's done well for himself, getting 2 clean sheets and an assist in 6 games. Not too bad overall. Ayling is another one, not too bad as well, getting 2 clean sheets. He's typically higher on the BPS than the likes of Dallas, because Dallas swings in a few more crosses. There's a couple of other interesting ones there. So Struijk was someone who only got 20 minutes because he got a yellow card and played center defensive midfield. Again, I don't want players that could potentially be taken off. Dallas and Ayling don't get taken off, so it'd be one of those two, and it would basically be something like I get rid of Ferguson and I bring in Ayling and would just basically play him. The only trouble is that he's also versus Leicester at home, which is against Castagne. If it's going to be a shootout between the two teams, I kind of don't want defenders like that in that sort of a scenario, because I don't think it's going to be a no-no. Again, for like Diaz as an example, 5.5, bit more expensive for a center back. If I'd go for like Semedo or something like that. Newcastle's not great. Sheffield United's not great. Southampton is an interesting prospect. Instead of Ayling, we could go with Walker-Peters, but again, that's a double up with McCarthy. So there are some pretty good fixtures in here. So Aston Villa away is not bad. Newcastle at home is probably going to be a clean sheet, hopefully. Wolves away could potentially be a clean sheet, but again, Raul Jimenez is usually quite pesky. United at home could be a bit tricky. The last time they played, it was a scored draw. Brighton away could pose a threat. Sheffield United at home could be quite easy. And then, in the Christmas period, Arsenal, City, not great for clean sheets either. And we want some type of rotation as well. So basically, we want to be able to play one of Walker-Peters and Lamptey with Castagne and Robertson for the time being. So if we look at where Walker-Peters' bad fixtures, so his bad fixtures would be Game Week 10, Game Week 13, Game Week 14. Lamptey's is also Game Week 10, but 13 and 14 are covered. So I'd have to play double Southampton defense versus Manchester United home, which probably isn't going to be great, considering United are probably going to be a little bit better than. Going back to Leeds, if we take a look at, so Game Week 10, Everton away, not great. 13, Newcastle at home. What was it, 12 and 13? So we don't want to play, so we want a decent fixture in Game Week 7, 10, and 12. So Dallas would be, 7 is okay, 10 is okay, and 12 is not bad. So they could rotate, quite nicely. Spurs defense, not really, looking there. West Ham could be quite interesting. So Cresswell We can take a, he's 5 million. Masuaku is 4.5 million, and is playing quite advanced, but is a bit reckless at times. So if we were to just consider him, game week 7, he's got Liverpool away, so that's not great. 10 Aston Villa home's pretty good, and 12 Leeds away is okay. So again, not the greatest rotation there. And then lastly, we have Wolves. So the main person here that I'd be looking at is Kilman, who is 4.1. So game week 7, lovely fixture, Crystal Palace at home. Game week 10, Arsenal away. I think that's actually a pretty good fixture because Wolves will frustrate Arsenal. And then 12, Aston Villa at home could be quite good. So Wolves is looking like the best possible outlet here. So if I were to bring in Kilman, who is most likely going to keep his place at least until Johnny comes back, which is probably going to be sometime next year. I'm not sure when it's projected, but another thing is that Marcel is also back. So is Saiss going to slot back in at center back with Marcel at left wing back, or is he there more of like his experience out on that side? So it's going to be a bit interesting because if you bring in Kilman and then he just doesn't play, but I mean he's done well for himself, playing in there. So the safer assured pick would be Semedo. But what we want to do is have an assured rotation. So what we might do at some point is, since Castagne's fixtures are a little bit on the rougher side for the time being, so Leeds, Wolves, and Liverpool, we don't want to play Castagne in game week 9 either, so we need to make sure that game week 9 is solid for us. So game week 9, Liverpool play Leicester, so we're going to play Robertson over him. Wolves in game week 9, they have Southampton at home. Again, an okay fixture on paper. We do have Ings, so it's not great, but we can still definitely play him in that. And then Lamptey in game week 9 has Aston Villa away. So we can play Kilman and Lamptey and not play Castagne versus Liverpool. And that would solve those problems there. The only thing is that later on, so this leaves us with 0.8 basically. Later on, so that would be our game week 7 transfer. Game week 8 transfer, we could roll it. We could potentially change somebody out. So if I have 0.8 in the bank, not really much I can do with that. Maybe downgrade Castagne to somebody else. Even though I still want him for, potentially these fixtures in here. So game week 10 to 13, because I'm still not fully convinced on Aston Villa as of yet. So we may roll a transfer into game week 9. And then game week 9, Castagne does play Liverpool, so we could make a defensive transfer there if we want. We could potentially change some things elsewhere. Maybe we make a goalkeeper transfer and then, roll the extra one going into game week 10. So game week 8, we don't do anything. Game week 9, maybe we say McCarthy, your next few aren't great. Sheffield United could be good, but overall you only really have Fulham away, Newcastle at home, maybe Aston Villa away are like the only really good ones for clean sheets. So let's say we get rid of McCarthy. We go to goalkeepers. You can look at Martinez. Meslier could be pretty good. Leicester at home could potentially be a clean sheet. Crystal Palace away is probably a clean sheet. Arsenal at home, they could potentially frustrate Arsenal. Everton away, probably not. Chelsea away, probably not. But overall, some okay fixtures overall. So potentially he could come in. West Brom, probably not looking there, I wouldn't think. Brighton's clean sheet potential. Matt Ryan, again, they conceded to, just the poorest West Brom side you could probably think of. Again, not great there either. And apart from that, it's pretty slim picking. So If we were to go with like the assured one, it would be Emilio Martinez, who has pretty good fixtures all the way there, and we would have him from game week 9 up until the end of the Christmas period. So he would be 4.8 that we would pay for him. So if we brought him in, we'd have 0.5 to spare, and we have his backup in Steer as well. And then we would go into game week 10 with 2 free transfers. And my thing is that I wanted to potentially bring in Spurs players. So in order, not Spurs players, Man City players. So if Aguero is out, then that could be a bit of an issue. If we wanted to keep Son because we think Son's going to be more of the goal threat and Kane's going to be more of the sister, which is probably likely during this period because they're going to be hitting teams on the break, and Son could be more of the threat with Bale once they're in the team with each other, and in full force. And then if we look at, if we go to Manchester City's fixtures, I'm just going to use Phil Foden as an example. From game week 10 onwards, Burnley, Fulham, United away is, pretty, okay. West Brom, Southampton, Newcastle, all fantastic fixtures. And I think Phil Foden could be quite a good asset at 6.6. Now, the original plan was to do something like this, was to take Aguero out. Where's he going? Where has Phil Foden disappeared to? There he is. I was blind for a second. Then we'd be 0.2 off, and then we would basically just we'd have to downgrade elsewhere. If we kept our our keeper at 4.5, then maybe we could do that. But that's assuming Aguero's fit. Hi there, good morning, says Neat from Nepal. A good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. I'm glad that you can join us. Another potential option is instead of Aguero, if Aguero's out and let's say Jesus comes back in time for game week 10 and is going to be fit, then we could bring in Jesus, and then we'll have enough money. We can go with Jesus and Foden, who I think could be great assets for him for that. But again, it depends on how we're looking there. But if we have, assuming no price changes, go crazy, we could just do instead of burning a transfer, we could just do a sideways, not necessarily a sideways-ish move, but we could potentially get in Chilwell to replace Castagne. Something like that could potentially work out. Spurs at home in game week 10 isn't great, but if we were to bring him in, it would probably be game week 8 or 9, which by then he could be a lot higher of a price. So that's kind of the thinking behind that. And then Son, I think he could potentially be good versus City, versus Chelsea, versus Arsenal, versus Palace, versus Liverpool. Son is probably going to be a better player in those fixtures. I would say maybe with the exclusion of Arsenal, which Kane seems to do quite well in that fixture. But yeah, that's kind of the line of transfers that I'm kind of looking at. So this week, probably Kilman in to get him in for the Crystal Palace fixture, and then we can have a little rotation between him, Lamptey, and Castagne, because the one team I don't want Castagne to play against is Liverpool, because I think that they could definitely concede versus Liverpool, and they're a different outlet than the likes of City. But I definitely potentially could keep him in for for these few here, and then bring in Chilwell later or something like that. But again, it depends on how much Kane goes up, because if Kane keeps going up, then when we go to sell him, we get a little bit more value. So if we looked at, so what was it? It was McCarthy would be in game week, out in game week. So we'd roll a transfer in 8, bring him out in game week 9, put in Martinez, who would come in versus Brighton. Then we would still have 2 frees going into that game week, and then we'd have Aguero potentially, and then Foden. So basically, if Kane goes up 0.4 more, which is definitely possible, we could potentially get that combo in, as it were. So definitely some interesting things we could do. Definitely some interesting things that we could do, transfer-wise. We could also potentially take out Son as well, and then mix things up completely. So if Jesus was back, we could go for the likes of Jesus. Maybe we don't bring in Foden. Maybe we bring in Sterling as an example, and then we go for like Souček, who from game week 10 onwards, still has relatively good fixtures all the way through. 3 players from Liverpool and only 6 points. I had 2 players from Liverpool and they only got me a couple of points as well. So it wasn't great overall. But what can you do? What can you do? And that's obviously this is all hypothetical, transfers and stuff, because things can definitely change. It can definitely change. But I'm pretty, even though I got a small little red arrow, which is 200k places, 51 points, I'm pretty happy with that, especially, especially seeing, Bamford scoring a hat-trick in the first game of the week versus Villa. I was happy and kind of, not happy with that, because initially in my very first team I put Bamford in there. I had Bamford and Mitrovic in the same team, so if I had kept Bamford this whole time, I'd have been looking quite good. But wasn't to be, and we've gone with a bit more of an expensive strike force as the season has gone on. But I think one of the good things that I've done was I brought in James Rodriguez and Calvert-Lewin as soon as possible. The one bad thing that I haven't, that I didn't do, was have Son and Kane in. Which, again, I had Kane in at least in a lot of my drafts, but kind of chickened out on it, unfortunately. Gamble Bamford as a differential pick. Yeah, I mean, Bamford's great. I believe did I put Bamford on the buy list at some point, and he scored? I can't remember. Yeah, overall, it's just going to be one of those things where the cheaper forwards are going to be very hit or miss. There's going to be times where Antonio is going to be good. There's going to be times where Bamford's going to be good. And there's going to be times where, Callum Wilson's going to be good. It just all depends. Sometimes they're going to hit big, and sometimes they're not going to hit at all. Like a lot of people, game week 8, they have their transfer booked in. I'm getting in Antonio if he's fit versus Fulham. He could go out there and pull a hamstring. There's many different ways you can look at it. Like if I look at, I'm just going to go to, let me just go to the game week 30/31 fixtures. So let's see if we can find any juicy ones. Okay, so Chelsea versus West Brom, right? Chelsea at home versus West Brom, and then Chelsea play Crystal Palace. Now imagine if that's a double game week, right? You're thinking that could be a triple captaincy for Timo Werner, right? But Timo Werner in the first game could go out there, get injured, or just blank both games, or maybe he starts one game, goes in midweek, plays Champions League or FA Cup or something like that, gets hurt, and then can't play in the league game. There's a lot of different things that you could pencil in, and they just don't end up working out. So like me at the beginning of the season, I was thinking about Calvert-Lewin. I was like, he's not going to be as much better with James Rodriguez, and I was sorely mistaken, because I like James as a player, and I was like, James is probably going to be good, but I didn't think it was going to be that good. And then after game week 1, I was thinking about Kane and Son. I was like, yeah, I was right. Mourinho's team is, not great overall. And then I just see Kane just becoming Kevin De Bruyne and the old Kane combined. It's like, oh, well, this is not ideal. And I said, well, it's just one game, whatever. What are the chances of them, getting that many points? And then they did well the following. It did okay the following week, and then they just had two monster holes inside of a short space versus United and West Ham, and then they hit again this week. And I think they'll continue to do so. And I'm even thinking that potentially they could be very good in Game Week 9, maybe in Game Week 10 too. We'll have to see kind of what form they're going into, because the way Spurs are going. Let me actually check the Premier League table. Premier League table at the moment. Spurs are in 5th at the moment. They're only 2 points behind Everton. But Aston Villa are up there with 12 points. They have a game in hand as well, which isn't going to be played for a while. So it's like there's a lot of teams like between United and Leeds, which is like over half the table, is United's game in hand, basically. There is a lot of teams that are starting to dwell down the bottom. So you got West Brom, Burnley, Sheffield United, Fulham. They're all on, those bottom 3 are on 1 point. West Brom's on 3 points. Brighton's on 5. United has a game in hand, but are on 7. City are on 8, but again with a game in hand. And had United beaten Chelsea, they would have been ahead of Chelsea with a game in hand too. So, again, different potential things to occur there. Trent Alexander-Arnold, yeah, again, another player we all thought was going to be fantastic. Everyone wanted Trent right at the beginning. Not meant to be so far. If we look at Robertson's returns, return in Game Week 1, so 1 of 1, 2 of 2, 3 of 3, 3 of 4, 3 of 4, 4 of 5, 4 of 6. But Trent is Trent hasn't done nearly as well as that. Unlucky due to VAR calling VAR every time the match is not interesting. Yeah, pretty much. But I mean, it was the right call for that. Beautiful delivery though, and a crazy good finish. I didn't want it to get ruled out just because of how good of a finish it was from Salah. Like his touch and then his finish was ridiculous, right? And the ball from Trent was fantastic. But again, those type of calls don't upset me. It's the calls where, United got lucky, really lucky this week because Harry Maguire chokeholds Azpilicueta to the ground. VAR didn't look at it. You have Luca Digne's red card. Some might say that he's just running alongside, or running behind. Trying to remember who it was that he put studs into. That it was accidental. There's a bunch of different ways that these things could be called. I just think that since it's referees making the decisions, like people like these refs that would ref a Premier League game the following day, I just don't think that their judgment is as good as potentially like someone who would be like neutral in the scenario. So they're looking in terms of like a referee's sense. You need to start looking at things when you have all this information in terms of a footballing sense. Like, did Luca Digne take his foot and intentionally put it in the back of the guy's ankle? No. Like, he didn't, like, he wasn't like Richarlison where he, like, in the previous game where he, like, sprinted at Thiago full pace, went in studs up, flew into the tackle. That sort of thing deserves a red card. There are just many different things where they have all this information. Half the time they don't look at it. The other time they look at it and just don't, like, disregard like some of the most important key things, like the Lamela Martial thing. Like Lamela hits Martial and then Martial retaliates. Well, if Martial goes down after Lamela hit him the first time and Martial doesn't retaliate and just drops to the floor, Lamela probably gets sent off. It just doesn't make sense to me. So I think you either have to give them both a yellow, both nothing, or both a red. It can't be one, half a dozen one way, and none the other, or whatever the saying is. But you can't just give Lamela only a yellow and Martial a red. It has to be both the same because they both hit each other, basically. Even though I just think it's nothing between that. Yeah, there's just some things that they just have to use a bit more common sense, I guess, when making some of these decisions. Because it's just like just ruining some games based on like single decisions that could just be easily determined by just looking at it. I mean, there was I can't remember what decision it was, but they took so long to figure out like to tell the referee to go over the screen. Like, it shouldn't be more than 10 to 15 seconds. It should be, okay, the play has happened. Hold on, ref. We could potentially have something here. They check the replay. They go, yeah, he's made some type of contact. It looks like contact. Come over to the screen and check it out. We'll show it to you. And then at that point, as he's coming over the screen, they can prep it and get ready and all that sort of stuff. It doesn't take that long to prep a replay. Like, replays, by the time the shot's gone over the bar, it's already being prepped and done within 10 seconds. VAR can do that too. The system has the capability to do that. I mean, it does do that. It's just you have these guys looking at their, pulling out their protractors and their lines and all that sort of stuff, trying to figure out if the guy's nose hair is offside. Like, come on. I think for offside, what they should do is, if the guy's clearly offside, say, okay, yeah, cool, he's offside. If it's like really close and you have to draw lines to like figure out like, is this dude's like half an armpit offside, tell the ref to come over and look at the pitch side monitor, and if to the naked eye he can't determine whether it's onside or offside, go with the on-field call, and then off you go. Because what's happening now is referees are just told, don't put your flag up until the very end. But what's happening now is, like, if people are way offside, they wait. The guy puts in the back of the net after 30 seconds of play, and then he sticks his flag up. Whereas what they should be doing is, yeah, that guy's offside, put the flag up. Like, if it's such a margin. If it's, like, somewhat close, let's say a yard, 2 yards, because they're trained to learn how to do these things, keep your flag down. If you think it's offside, put it up at the end of the play. If not, keep it down. And then if he says, oh, it could be, could be offside here, ref, come over and take a look. Jogs over the monitor, checks to the naked eye. Does it look like he's offside? Has my linesman made a clear and obvious error here? Which is what it's for. Clear and obvious decisions. If he can't determine within 15, 20 seconds to like look and be like, yeah, that guy's definitely leaning ahead of that other guy. Cool. I can see them putting a line like so that they can, how they always drew the old offside line to like kind of help the referee out a little bit, to give perspective, because usually the cameras are at an angle or that sort of stuff, or the pitch lines aren't exactly straight across because the camera's like off center or whatever. Then that's fine. Even a nose hit, like the Jordan Henderson winner that was ruled offside versus Everton. Like, we're talking the most marginal offside you can ever even think of. Now, me as a United fan, I despise Liverpool. However, I think they were unjustly done there because of, like, me, I've looked at it so many times, I still can't even tell if he's offside. I still can't tell if he's offside, like. And then you have other decisions where, in that same game, so you have Van Dijk who gets, he gets chopped down by Pickford, gets injured. We all know the story. But the reason they didn't look at it was because Van Dijk was offside. So then you're telling me, if, let's say the ball comes in, Van Dijk's offside, right? After the play, Van Dijk and Pickford get into a little bit of scuffle almost immediately, and Pickford punches him in the face. You're saying that Pickford can't get sent off because Van Dijk was offside? Like, it just doesn't make sense. You should be able to send somebody off for serious foul play. Was Jordan Pickford's tackle reckless? Yes, it was. It was serious foul play. He literally had no intention of, like, or it didn't look like he was in control of his body. He was nowhere near the ball, and he was way late and way too high up on the leg. He wasn't along the ground. Like, it just doesn't make sense. Like, yeah, let's say literally, like, Jordan Pickford goes in for a tackle, Van Dijk like dips out of the way of the tackle, and then starts like, cussing him off or pointing a finger at him, saying, what are you doing that for? And Jordan Pickford like shoves him or pushes him in the face, and then Van Dijk goes down. Jordan Pickford's getting sent off. But no, Van Dijk was offside, so that means he shouldn't get sent off. Like, what? Like, how does that make sense? It just seems like they're trying to alter the rules, like, as they feel. It's not hard to make things black and white. Like, if at any point in time there's serious foul play, whether the guy's offside, onside, whatever, if there's serious foul play involved, you can send the guy off. Doesn't matter. Because you can say that, hey, look, the referee's at an angle to where he can't really see the tackle very well or something like that. That's where VAR needs to come in. VAR being the official using the equipment, so the other referee using the equipment to say, look, Jordan Pickford's a bit reckless here. Yeah, I know Van Dijk's offside, but this is still serious foul play. You need to come check this out. And I think they could do it in a lot faster time. But again, it's the referees are looking, or they're trying to nitpick. They're trying to find the ever so slightest detail. They're basically going, every time a goal is scored or a key decision is made, they're trying to figure out reasons why it's not the case. It's like, goal scored. Okay, how can we make sure that this isn't a goal? Like, it just doesn't make sense. The most joyous thing about your team is scoring a late winner versus like your rival, or scoring a late goal at the end. Like, Liverpool scores a very legitimate goal from the naked eye versus Everton, and you're telling me that he's like a picometer offside. Like, come on. The original offside was meant to stop goal hanging, not to be, oh, this guy is half a shoelace, of the shoelace plastic tip offside. That gives him an advantage to get in front of the defender. No, it doesn't. Like, it doesn't at all. Like, it just doesn't make sense. And then they're drawing lines from like where the patch is on the outside of his arm, so even the thickness of the line that they use can come into it. Another thing is that Thiago's pass is so good and so crisp that how do you know exactly when he touches the ball? Cameras can't even determine, like, it could, that type of distance, where it's like a nose hair offside, as we're calling it, is the difference between like the frame rate of a camera. It's just, I don't know. It's just a whole bunch of nonsense. But anyway, we went on a bit of a tangent there. But overall, pretty average game week for most. Those who got more than the average, pat yourselves on the back. You did well. If you captain Son this week, you're looking good. Yeah, hopefully I can get my captaincy choice back on track, because that's the first time I've actually blanked with a captain this season. So we're 5 out of 6. So we're doing not too bad. And it's probably going to be split again between Kane and Salah. If you haven't done so already, make sure to like, follow, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. I'll take this one last question. Should do an early transfer. I will see if Kilman's going up, but it's almost certainly I'm going to be doing Kilman. So by the time we go to do the deadline stream, which is going to be the same time, might do it a little bit later, but most likely it's going to be 7 p.m. EDT. On Thursday, because again, Friday games for Game Week 7 and 8, so I have to do it early. But I might do an early transfer, because if you're doing an early transfer for a team that doesn't play midweek, like Wolves, like Brighton, these sorts of players, then it's fine. Like, the likelihood of them getting injured in training is whatever. And it's not like Nuno Espirito Santo gives us anything in the press conferences anyway. He's literally just, like, I think the last press conference, for the week gone, he literally said, we're looking at some things. Like, what does that even mean? Whereas, like, Bielsa says, yeah, this guy's playing, this guy's not playing, this guy's playing. Like, so who knows? We will have to see. I still might go for a Leeds defender. We'll have to see on that front. But Kilman is looking quite good. Again, might not start potentially this week, although he has been playing well. Like, we could see Marcel come in a left wing back, and Seiss comes in as one of the center backs. But again, we'll have to see on that front. But again, like I said, like all the videos over on YouTube, subscribe over there if you haven't done so already. Turn those notification bells on. Give us a follow here. We're going to be having emotes soon. I'm getting those developed as we speak. And also make sure to follow us over on Twitter so you can see the little bulletins that we post weekly. We'll be back tomorrow over on YouTube with my captaincy as well as my buy, hold, sell video. on tomorrow being Tuesday. Wednesday, we're going to be having the Pep Roulette and my lineup announcement, because I'll probably have made my transfer by then, almost certainly. And then I might do something different over the weekend. I might be talking about my team, Manchester United, and how I think that they should line up in real life, basically. And I think that because a lot of United fans are talking about United's best 11 because they haven't been technically playing that, and things have been chopping and changing. So with Donny van der Beek not playing as much, so that might be something that's in the works. But that's going to be a bit more of a detailed video. I might do that in place of a gaming video on a Sunday, so we'll have to see on that front. But thanks for watching, and remember, stop by over on the Deadline stream, which again, 7 p.m. EDT this Thursday on Twitch. It's going to be the same like that for Game Week 8 as well, as long as there is a Friday fixture. Thanks for watching, and until the next one, take care.